has remained a part of Canada ever since that day, despite the fact that Victoria does technically sit below the 49th parallel, which is the border that we use between our two countries for the rest of the Western halves. Now, we had a journalist come to visit us here in Victoria about 25 years ago now. And while here, he wrote an article about our city describing us as a city of newlyweds, flower beds, and overbeds. I'll break down each of those descriptors for you, and that should help give you a little bit of an idea of what our city here is like. Now, newlyweds is because we have quite a young population in Victoria for a couple of different reasons. One being that the University of Victoria is about 20 minutes outside of town. It's a world-renowned university, so people come from all over to study here. Another reason being that oftentimes young folks are born here or move here at a young age with their families, like I did. And because the cost of living here is so high, we're not able to build up enough of a savings account to move anywhere else. So you wind up a little bit stuck here. As I think you'll see tonight, it is a very beautiful place to be stuck, so I don't know that too many of us would complain, but stuck we are. Now that brings us to the next descriptor, which was City of Flower Beds. We will see lots of flowers as we travel through town tonight, which is probably to be expected because it is still technically summertime. However, you can find flowers throughout Victoria pretty much all year round. That's because we do have quite mild weather here in Victoria, especially in comparison to the rest of Canada anyways. This is technically a temperate rainforest. It does not get too hot in the summertime with an average temperature of 78 degrees, and it doesn't get too cold in the winter either, with the average being in the high 30s. Because it doesn't drop below freezing very often, we very rarely get snow, although we do get an awful lot of rain, which means that plants and trees and flowers are able to grow here pretty much all year round. Our last descriptor, City of Overbeds, is not actually related to how much we eat here in Victoria, but is because we have one of the highest restaurant per capita ratios out of any major city in the country. Now, you guys just got off of a cruise ship, and as long as your boat is doing its job well, then you probably don't need to know where those restaurants are. But if you're just curious, or if you come back to Victoria some other time, you'll see you don't have to look too far at all before you find a whole bunch of different restaurants. We are especially well known for our brunch restaurants as well as seafood, seeing as we are so close to the ocean here. Now we're on our way towards downtown Victoria as we speak. However, we're not quite there yet. You can probably tell we're still on the outskirts here. This is a little neighborhood called James Bay. James Bay is the oldest residential neighborhood in all of Western Canada. It was first established in 1858. Because the neighborhood is as old as it is, we do have lots of very old buildings, like these beautiful houses we're just passing by here on our right. Many of these houses are registered heritage houses. Heritage houses are at least 100 years old, if not older. They also have not had any major changes to the outside structure since they were first built. Heritage houses are protected by our Heritage Society. One of those members is just in the front yard here on the right of us. They are never allowed to be torn down, so those houses will be here forever. They do have to follow quite a few rules about what the outside of the building is allowed to look like, including things like having to be kept in pristine condition and having to have at least 3 different colors of paint on the outside. smallest grocery store in Victoria. She partook in some pretty scandalous activities for the time, such as smoking men's cigars and riding a horse with one leg on either side. Her neighbors used to ask all the time when she was going to finally settle down, start a family, and behave the way they felt a lady should. Instead of doing any of that, she decided to move to France. She lived in France for quite a while, studying art some more, until eventually she ran out of her inheritance money, and that forced her to move back to Victoria to be a little bit closer to her family here. This time when she returned, it seemed like people were quite happy to see her, probably because she was seen pushing a baby stroller through town. People assumed that meant she had fallen in love with some European fella and had returned with him and their new baby. This was not actually the case. They probably should have known better. She was actually playing a little bit of a prank and seeking out the most gossipy and nosy lady in Victoria to play it on. Now, when she found her, she invited her to meet her brand new baby girl. And when the lady leaned down to peer into the baby carriage, she came face to face with a very hairy monkey wearing a dress. Now, the monkey's name was Woo, and that's because that's the noise people made when they met her for the first time. And she played that little prank with Woo on all the ladies throughout town until eventually word got around what she was up to, and people started avoiding her after that, which is really all she had wanted from the start anyways.